Squad as we know it is about to change. OWI recently posted a note saying that they were about to overhaul infantry combat mechanics. I had the opportunity to jump into the public playtest this past weekend, so let's talk about some of the things that I saw. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment with your thoughts down below. There's three main pillars of things changing, including how we aim, scope, ADS, how suppression operates, and character movement. So let's first take a look at aiming. If you're like me, I often always go for an ACOG or some sort of scope that gives me some magnification. The game now uses a picture-in-picture system, so now your peripheral vision is blurred heavier and your focus in the sight is very crystal clear, and you feel more like you're looking through a scope. There's more punishment for movement or not being ready and set to take that aim. Additionally, gun sway is more noticeable and recoil is also much more apparent. I found myself scoping in a lot more to kind of see and get the feel of it, but also putting myself at risk in that time that it takes to ADS. I felt much slower at being able to identify the target one after another. So if you have a wave of enemies pushing towards you, it took me longer to go from shooting at one enemy to going to the next one. I think the skill required to run marksman very effectively has increased, and I do think that machine gunners are going to see a really big benefit to being stationary in really good position just to lay down suppressing cover fire. Because some of the character movement changes and stamina adjustments, you also feel this need to stop and slow yourself down before getting too close to combat. It makes you hesitant. As the lower your stamina is, the harder time you're going to have steadying your aim. We need to talk about how this affects red dots and iron sights. Scopes with magnification now are going to work at a disadvantage where they're not going to be as helpful in close quarters combat. The slower ADS and the sort of disadvantage of peripheral vision is going to hamper your ability to find targets that are close, whereas the red dot sight now seems way more useful along with iron sights, especially in those close quarter situations. Now, while this may become more map dependent, it's also going to matter when you're pushing objectives. Because aim and ADS is slower with something like an ACOG scope, you're going to see a noticeable difference in being able to find your enemy in your sights with a red dot or with a iron sight. The iron sight and red dot obviously give a big advantage for close quarters combat, which may become very map dependent. While you have faster ADS time in those tight spaces, you'll lose the ability to see at further distances without magnification. It's now becoming apparent that your kits that are chosen within your squad need to be diversified to handle multiple different situations. And this is something that OWI is actively trying to push. To mimic realistic situations, they want dependencies between different squad members. Which brings us to suppression. Suppression is being overhauled, and in that, making it way more useful. It's going to affect us way more than it has before. Not only in the fact that HMG bunkers and vehicles are going to play a part in suppression, the way suppression now isolates you is really significant. And given the new infantry mechanics when it comes to other weapons, if you have someone laying down cover fire, it is going to affect the enemy pretty hard. Now, the major thing I took away from this is how it disorients you from what's happening around you. It's very hard to see and track what's happening in your vicinity. Now, the weapon type will also now be a part of how the suppression is manufactured. So if it's a heavier weapon, like a 50 cal, it's going to do more suppression than something like an M16. And altogether, suppression is going to be more of a factor when aiming down your sight. All this makes suppression feel like less of a byproduct of something happening, instead a tool. It makes it useful, and it makes it something that your squad is going to need to focus on. This works for both offense and defense. If you're attacking or defending, it is key to utilize this tool now. And combined with the new character movement changes, you're going to see a very different battlefield. Now, that last pillar of changes is character movement. And these changes include reduced stamina regen, no longer climbing or vaulting while in midair, reduced movement speed, and changes to fall damage. A lot of these updates work hand in hand, so the new ADSing is going to make you not want to run directly at the enemy, but then again you move slower and have less stamina. Now, factored in with this, there is an indicator at the top of your screen, your compass, that will help show you when you are ready to aim, like when you are calm and focused. They've reduced the opportunities to also do parkour across buildings and walls and various obstacles. I think this is going to force more infantry to work together and rely on vehicles, which is going to become more of a significant thing, especially in pushing enemy objectives, flanking, and general troop movement. And one of the most notable things is the reduction to leaning. It's completely reworked. There's no more leaning spam. It's slowed down, doesn't seem as significant, and is affected by what weapon you're using. So let's talk about my overall impressions. I think there's a few things I want to touch on. I think this drastically changes squad in a few different ways, including how we operate within firefights, but I think there's a bigger picture. So much of squad is based around attack and defense, right? Attacking objectives and defending them. What's really key here is that because the firefight changes so drastically, it's going to alter how we maneuver to those fights, how we push those fights, how we attack, how we flank, everything, and therefore it involves more than just that infantry squad making the initial push. There's now a bigger significance to teamwork, which is what OWI wants to see. It may be more necessary to pick kits based on what other people are using. It's going to be more necessary to use vehicles. Not to mention, positioning is now so key. If you're walking the white line between objectives, the defenders can just sit there and wait. They're not going to be using stamina, and they're not going to have to wait for stamina regen to have a really solid aim. These changes in combination with the recent price drop on emplacements is pretty significant and hand in hand. Defense already has an advantage by being able to use emplacements, and now with these updates, you have a little bit more of an edge. And with the removal of ticket bleed, you can sit and you can afford to wait for the enemy push. You can now turn objectives into meat grinders. And if you're attacking and not using assets like mortars, vehicles, it's going to be trouble. Now, all of this obviously is a work in progress, and I can see some things that need to be adjusted. Some head bobbing needs to be toned down. The polish between ADSing and coming out of ADS needs to be adjusted. There's plenty of work to do there to get it into a playable space for everybody, although I do think there's going to be a significant learning curve no matter where we land. I think it'll be really impressive to see how many of these updates that we've seen in the last few months and moving forward are all going to coincide with each other to create a very different experience within Squad. So what are your thoughts? Leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, and I'll see you next time.